Hello, hello, hello. It is Thursday, April 2nd, 2020. And we have a bunch more people coming, although Bree just let me know she's not going to make it. And Catherine Marshall Smith, who's in Book in a Year, joined the Thursday group. So we are at 13. And Leela might drop by, and I will explain. She's been in this class before, but she went to Bali for the year, and then she went from Bali for spring break. They went to I think Australia, maybe New Zealand, for a week. For a week, it's like they left everyone for a week to go on vacation, and they got stuck there, and they then had to fly back to California. And now they're quarantined in California. So she joined the Tuesday class, which had one spot in it, and but it had already happened this week, so so I told her she could come today. She may not be able to because she's at home with an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old husband, and her mom. So let's see. But here we are. Let's see who else is going to make it. I also think that I think Zoom is like really kind of under pressure right now. I was on a Zoom meeting this morning, and the connection was really bad. Although I was just on one with the kids. I was doing middle grade historical fiction writing, and the connection was great. So I don't know. There's Leela. I just told your whole saga, or a very abbreviated form of it, to explain why you were here. But I mean, here. I'm so happy you're here. All right, well, let's start with goals check-in. And so we did like, what? Oh yeah, then it's just an funky internet day. So of course, I always prefer to see everybody's face. I think it's part of the teaching relationship. But if you need more internet juice, sometimes turning off your video just helps your connection, because the video actually takes a lot of the space. So Diana, you might want to turn off your video, and you'll still be able to see everybody else, but that might help your connection if it's really slowing down. Okay, so welcome everybody. We are actually at the beginning of a new quarter. It is spring, and it is a strange spring that we did not expect. But we are here, and we are grateful. So then we are even already set up. The rest of the world has just joined us all in Zoom. But so let's go ahead and think about goals. And what we did last week to wrap up was to really think about being gentle. What is the gentlest, kindest goal? And thinking of the word goal not as, what I should be doing, or even what I could be doing, or what I wish I were doing, but just like, how can I support my writer self? So kind of this is like your check-in. How'd it go? How'd it go? All right, so we're just starting with goals check-in in the chat, in the context of being a time for gentle, supportive goals. All right, Lisa, are you like the only person in the world who's still getting your hair done?
Thank you. I did this myself. I colored it myself, and I'm kind of proud of it.
It looks really good. I was thinking your character had come out of the book to do your hair.
Yeah, well, I do have a personal interest in,
That is amazing. I mean, it's like, it looks good in any moment, but in this particular moment when like everybody else is like going, you're my roots, whoa.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, it's a benefit. It is novel research, as I'm,
I wrote to my hairdresser, and I said, maybe you could send everybody like their hair dye with their mix there, and then we could do a Zoom session. You could teach everybody how to do it.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would like not come back to you at the end. But anyway, she hasn't written me back yet. Maybe I have too much time on my hands, even though it sure doesn't feel that way. But now we need some dye tips. Like, what kind of dye did you use?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know. I would like to sit in on your professional session.
It would be, again, research, right?
Yeah.
You cut your hair too?
No, I'm getting to the point where I might. I do actually have some hair cutting guides that I bought for my novel research, so they're coming in handy.
Did you know how like important that would be?
I had no idea. Maybe my subconscious was working on that.
We should all cut our hair on the Zoom call together.
Right? But no, we are writing a separate Zoom call. Okay. Sydney sent a revision to her agent yesterday. Standing ovation. Very nice.
Yeah, I don't know what to do next, actually. So
I have so many thoughts about that. Because one is, of course, you need to like recuperate and like binge watch something and whatever.
Yeah.
Things you think I'll just put that off till I'm done. At the same time, I've decided when I send this one off, like I have to dive in to another book.
Okay.
I just like right now I'm so happy because I've done all these edits, I'm putting in the changes. I feel even though I've done this like 8 times or something, I feel so optimistic. I feel so good about it. I can't believe how much I've learned and grown, and the book's so much better.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send it off, and then I'm gonna send it to a human being who can't go into her office, who's in the center of the crisis.
Yeah.
In an industry that is sort of collapsing, and who also has like 50 other really amazing people she's working with. So then I'm going to be waiting. And, and so then I'm going to get so like psychotically depressed. And really not fun to live with. So so I actually, and then I just think, what if you start your next book right now? And then as you go through all this, you'll get notes, you'll put that one aside, which will actually be great. Cause then you'll come, and then, you'll work on this one again with the notes, and then you'll send it off again, and then you'll have something to go back to. And then no matter what happens with this one, you've got like the next strong book ready to go.
That's a good idea, because I just don't know what to do right now, which of many projects that are competing for my attention. Like, a couple months ago, I got the rights back to one of my nonfiction books. I'm like, well, should I self-publish that? And,
right.
I don't know. I wanted to ask you today, like, what do I do while I'm waiting to hear back from her with notes? But
yeah, I would imagine like, I don't know, this is me right now, but like, I would say, okay, you've kind of put some energy into doing this shift. So you're incorporating the strengths of what this work was into this new genre. I think you've had some fun with it, right?
Yeah.
Like, you've done a good job with it, and it's still sexy and, right. And so I would say like, kind of write the next one, and it doesn't have to be those characters. It doesn't have to be the third book or whatever, but just like pick, write another book that feels like your passion and kind of as commercial as you want to be in the world, and just have the next one there. You know what I mean? Because this is it is sort of a Olympic level right now, right? When you're working with an agent, you're on this Olympic level, and not everybody who goes to the Olympics medals.
Yeah.
Right. That's the big thing. Like, but it doesn't mean you're not Olympic quality, but it just like, you have to kind of keep training and get ready to run your next race.
Yeah. That's a good point, which seems overwhelming right now, because the book kind of ballooned from like 80,000 words to like almost 120, so
yeah. And definitely like give yourself a big old vacation, but like, just know, like you're kind of just like letting the next thing percolate.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Very exciting. All right. Leela, so I mentioned, and some people weren't here yet, but can you do the brief summary of why you're here?
Yes. Hi. So let's see, I was living in Bali with my husband and 2 young kids for the year, which was our plan, our sabbatical year, which we planned for a decade. And then we went to Australia on vacation, which was planned for a few months. And when we were in Australia, our flight back to Bali got canceled, as well as basically like all operations for that entire airline, which is sort of like the low-cost carrier of Australia. So my husband freaked out and said, we'll never get off alive from Australia. So we have to go back to the States now. So we just carried on to the States with none of our medicines or underwear or books or everything. That's all still back in Bali. So we're in my mom's garage in SoCal because our house is rented out in Berkeley and we can't get near my mom. And I'm here.
Yay! Oh my God.
Wow.
And Leela actually, so she's actually in the Tuesday class because that had like, so in like all my classes are at 13 right now, which is like one over my limit, but it already started this week. And so I said, come on Thursday and get started. These are unusual times.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Okay. And of course, Leela used to be in the Thursday class, so it's nice to get you to visit here. All right. Let's see. So Leela says, I have no goals anymore. Just kidding. Rejoin book writing fulfills my goal of returning to writing routines. And now, again, the world said, well, here's a great story. So, yeah. All right. Cindy Sima Ivy. I did some of the work on my list, a miracle. But wow, was I distracted? Why? All right, awesome. Lisa Melter Penn, keep writing daily and working on areas that are drawing me in. Let structure start to form. And then, now that's all the future. How was this week?
It was pretty good. I did like a whole bunch of writing 2 Sundays ago. And then I spent the rest of the week going through it and editing. The writing was nice and fast. The editing was nice and very slow. But it's starting, some pieces are coming together, so that's good.
That is awesome. Yeah, and it's great to do both, and the pace doesn't matter really right now. It's just keep moving, or don't, you know.
Yeah, so I'm like, maybe the back and forth will work that way, so.
I think so, yeah, I think that can be nice. And if one sucks you in, you know, it will, but. Diana says, I revised 2 chapters. Again, amazing. But today I didn't do anything. Well, the night is still young. Today I realized that I can only do 1 day at a time, right? It's like the world was determined to teach you that. So I thought I would write, but needed to, disinfect the doorknobs. Isn't that fun? It's just a new thing to add to our lives. Yeah, I needed one more like picky-uni thing to do. Don't forget the computer keyboards.
Yeah, gotta do that.
All right, Shannon, continuing to work. So by the way, so Diana's in Northern Italy. Shannon is in Kansas City, right?
Yes, that's right.
Are you in Missouri?
I'm in Missouri.
Yeah. All right. Who knew, you know? Okay. I'm not being snarky. I did drive through Kansas City, both of them. Okay. Shannon is continuing to work toward her deadline for submission of her novel to the editor. Great. Taking the murky middle a day at a time. That works for like life and the novel, right?
Yes.
We're all in the murky middle. And now we realize why we don't like it. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know where the ending is. We don't know how it all turns around. Yeah, great. Do you have a deadline with that editor?
Well, it was yesterday, but she is behind by a month. So I got this wonderful gift of another month.
Excellent.
Which is good.
You could just stay in the house and work on the book.
What else would I do?
Exactly. Excellent. It all lines up. All right, Carolyn, my goal, since Angie said to give ourselves kind goals, yes, is to write the book into your scenes I want to write, rather than all the scenes up to the low point, and enjoy writing, which I am with my book in a year group on our Zoom calls. Yay!
That's current and future. That is what's out.
Yeah.
I also let myself do that prompt about what do I want to write about one day. Like I just didn't do work on any books, just what's going on with me right now to try to record what's going on in time. So I love that prompt.
Good. Yeah, that's Natalie Goldberg. What do I want to write about? You just keep writing, I want to write about, and you keep coming back to it. If you get stuck, I want to write about, and then to set a timer and do 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and then do I don't want to write about. That's the underbelly prompt. Great. All right, Pat, carrying on with book in a year. Actually like a bunch of it. Yay! I'm so glad you had this kind of marvelous breakthrough right at the start of all this.
I just want to say I was really reluctant to start in on the low point because it'd been so cheery what I'd been writing. And then I really got into it.
Good.
Yeah.
Sometimes, sometimes it can be. I remember when my dad was in the ICU in the kind of long drawn out process of dying, that right before he went in, I didn't want to read this depressing book. I think I just told you guys the story, but anyway, and then like when he was in it, suddenly seemed like a great engaging book. So kind of, it's all relative.
Right. Absolutely.
Good. I'm glad you're in it. And also that's where the characters learn and grow and all that good stuff. So, okay. I've not tried Madison Reed. Are we on hair dye? The interspersing of the hair dye.
Sorry, you unleashed a monster there.
It's the big thing. It's the
Ignore.
the embodiment of like our true selves emerging.
Yeah.
All right, Catherine, keep going with book in a year, trying to write 2 hours, 4 days a week. Fantastic. That's amazing. Posted to book in a year on Monday. Great. Dyson vacuum obsessions. I love this. All right. Felicia says, I'm still avoiding setting goals. Here. I like it. Just stay home and write. All right. Lisa Taggart, finish revision. I am having a hard time with the new stuff, facing the blank page. Yeah, why? Why would uncertainty and why would that be challenging right now? Right, and so I'm allowing myself to just polish the old material. Great, except in this class, which is the one space where I'm able to face the wilderness of the rough draft. Good, we are here. We've got your back. We have our muskets. I was just doing historical fiction, so with the middle school muskets and outhouses, historical fiction. All right, Devi, continue to call book in a year book pieces and perhaps write. Good, and simply not giving up is a goal, says Catherine. Yes. All right, and then more important hair coloring info. Okay, we're going to start with character, and actually, anyway, I think character is a great place to start, and I wanted to kind of get into how characters are drawn on the page. And what I think this class sort of turns out to be about is also the ways in which, I think we know this, but when a character is described, the narrator describing and the person being described are both revealed profoundly, right? There's some great quote about that, but it's just so far in the back of my head right now. But it's like, kind of, if you want to know a person, like ask them to tell you about other people, right? Anyway, something much more witty than that, but it's too far in the back of my head right now. So what I want to ask you to do is, actually we'll do that at the end. Okay, so, oh God, my dog is like, now I need to leave the room. All right, excuse me a moment. Off you go. Okay. Okay, so the first one here, and it's also the first one in the alternate week exercises are kind of almost the same set of sort of techniques. It just so happened, I noticed. So this is a character, the narrator is somebody who hasn't seen this character in a long time. And so the narrator is describing the character. And so we're going to, at play is going to be the character in front of the narrator. And by narrator, I mean point of view. I think these might both be this is third person. So anyway, point of view character, right? So the point of view character is here. And in front of the point of view character is a character in the present moment. But of course, the point of view character can also see that character in the past. Right? So that's like at least 3 characters if we don't count the point of view character in the past as well, right? That dynamic of running into somebody you haven't seen in 10 years or 20 years, right? And then, okay, there's the person I'm seeing and the details I'm noticing and the changes. And then there's who I see and who I knew and what I remember from before. Okay, also note use of metaphors and descriptions and actions. He smiled in the grimmest possible way. He had small, tough eyes, but with all the added bulk, his face looked bloated. His trapezius muscles were like suspension bridges coming down from his neck. The claw mark tattoo Dan remembered from high school now had neighbors all over his back, torso, and down his arms. He was like an old-timey steamer trunk slapped with erratic stickers. The only part of him inkless was from the neck up as per military regs. How tough and leathered Rick looked now. Isn't that great? So, okay. So first of all, there's definitely a point of view in this, right? So Dan is the point of view character, right? Dan remembers Rick and Dan is seeing Rick now. So Dan is the one who is letting us know that that Rick is smiling in the grimmest way possible, right? So we learn in that assessment and the language of it, we learn about both Dan and Rick, right? I mean, how one person would describe it would be really different from how another person would describe it. The level of sympathy would be different. The assessment of emotion might even be different. So we're getting both characters. We're also getting this great vivid physical description, the small tough eyes, the added bulk of his face, looked bloated, his trapezius muscles, the claw mark tattoos right all over. And then we have these couple of great metaphors. His trapezius muscles were like suspension bridges coming down from his neck. I think that's just fabulous, isn't it? I mean, you just can see that so vividly. And then he was like an old-timey steamer trunk slapped with erratic stickers. Again, like not a complimentary description, but wonderfully vivid. The use of slapped there is great. The only part of him inkless was the neck up and it's kind of interesting because we get this little bit of kind of his history as per military regs, right? And then we get this is, again, the kind of conclusive assessment, how tough and leathered Rick looked now. We also get change. We have like an arc of this person before, this person after. So lots of really fun stuff to play with. And again, there's the before and after of the character, the before and the now. And there's the character looking and everything. So you get into the viewpoint of the character who's looking, and that is going to filter the emotion, the word choice, the metaphors, the details that are observed, and so we're going to learn both characters really strongly. Yeah. So why don't we just get on the page, do like an 8-minute free write, and see what comes out. Couple more minutes. Okay. I have put you in trios. I will give you 12 minutes. Actually, the computer put you in trios and it did just a beautiful job, I think. So enjoy, and I will send you little reminders to switch and then bring you back. So remember the response, actually, because Catherine did just join us, even though she's a familiar face. So in fact, but you were here, you came to one of my classes, so you know the rules, I think. But let's just go over them since it's the beginning of the quarter. Okay, so what are the rules of craft class and writing?
Do you want me to? Okay, go.
Sorry, go ahead, Lisa Taggart.
Right. One of the rules is right.
The first rule, the first and main rule is to write. So you sit down, this is such good practice, whether I'm here or not. You sit down, your job is to write. Nothing else really matters. Get on the page. If you end up writing about your groceries, that's okay. They're very dramatic right now.
Believe me, they are.
So yeah, so that's the main number one rule, and it doesn't have have to have anything to do with the topic, the technique, anything you've ever learned, anything you think you should be doing. Just keep the pen moving or the fingers and go. Rule number 2.
Don't apologize.
Yes, all together now. Don't apologize.
Don't apologize.
This too is a rule not just for craft class, not even just for writing. It's for all the time. It's to learn to say, "Stay 6 feet away from me, sucker." And but no, okay, it's not exactly that. But you show up on the page. You don't know what's happened. You bring it to somebody else. You can't comment on it because you've never even read it before. So you're not a critic. You're an artist. You wrote something. Everything you write doesn't have to be brilliant, perfect, or do anything because you were just supposed to write. If you wrote, you did it. Now you're reading it. No apologies. It also helps your fellow non-apologizing writers to just hear the work. Here it is. Then now I have 3 rules, kind of, which is what is the appropriate response to something someone just wrote?
Specific and
honest.
Honest. There we go.
What? Specific, honest, what? Praise. Specific,
Praise.
honest praise.
Right.
That's it. All right, you guys, that's it. I've taught you everything I know. Go into your room and read what you wrote.
Okay.
Assign to I'm
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
I love that that's the garage wallpaper.
No, I made that up.
Oh, you're not in the garage?
No, I'm in the garage, but that's, yeah.
You made up the wallpaper.
I can send you how to do it if you want some cool wallpapers.
Sure. We've been doing a lot of green screen because Angie has real green screens, but all good. Hi, everybody.
Angie has what?
Green screen. You know how Angie has real green
Oh,
screen?
yeah, yeah.
Like the actual screen behind us. Not now I just
Layla, is that real wallpaper behind you, or that's a green screen Otis?
It's just a virtual background.
Yeah.
It looks great. You look great. It's a really good color for you.
Thank you. I'll send I think I can put the link in the chat.
Oh, that would be
for you to
lovely.
get it. Yeah.
It looks like Bali.
I will say my hairdresser wrote back to my Zoom offer and said that there were some insurance concerns.
Oh.
And also, she also said it's really hard in the back and the sides not to get over the line, and then you have these different lines, like when you're just touching up the root, and it's really hard to undo them. So she didn't think it was a great idea.
I figured it's more complicated than we imagined.
Right.
It always is.
Yes.
Are we talking about the green screen?
No, we moved on to dyeing.
Oh, because I thought I said I think it's talking about hair dyeing, but
Yes, like yes. Okay. What did we learn about character descriptions and change? Yeah, Pat.
I have to say that both Felicia and Debbie did, unsurprisingly, remarkable jobs. I'll just give you one phrase from Felicia's, which was avocado murderers. And Debbie's and Hara responded to with an enveloping silence of fog.
Beautiful.
Wow.
I see avocado murderers sneaking through the enveloping silence of fog. All right, so vivid description. And of course, the language of the description gives us the kind of point of view character, as well as whatever he or she is or they are seeing. Yeah, what else? Yeah, Carolyn. Oops, let's unmute you. Hold on, I think you have to unmute you last.
I learned from Shannon and Cindy that it takes very little to start a scene where you think something ominous is going to happen or it's going to switch. It's it can be very subtle, and because we picked up on each other's clues very early.
Yes.
In our writing, in the writing that was read. So,
Yeah. Do you remember what could have triggered that sense?
Well, like Shannon, someone was meeting her at the airport and he brought, what was it, scratchy roses, tacky roses. Like this is, and he looked different, than when it was the same guy who had met her before. But, that's
yeah, those roses just like they signaled the end.
Yeah. And Cindy's character was being met at a train station, and it was her sister meeting her, which sounded great until she said there were two men with her, and then it was like, uh-oh.
The unexpected. Yeah. Great, good. And we do as readers really like pick up on clues and cues. Yeah. Lisa, please unmute yourself.
Oh, Lisa,
both Lisa Taggart.
We didn't know which one. We were in the room together, so
yeah, let's hear from both of you. You can never have too many Lisa.
Okay. Well, Catherine had what I learned about character is that one particular detail can reveal so much. And Catherine had this perfect detail for a silent in the scene but overbearing character whose perfume kind of overpowered the hospital space that they were in, and it was just so right on.
That's wonderful.
Lisa, I hope I didn't steal your thunder there.
Lisa, you don't forget to unmute. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay. No, that was good. I just wanted to add that so I was with Lisa T and Catherine, and they both use these fabulous metaphors. And Catherine used the perfume one, which just pervaded the room, and it was, the perfume was like a buzzsaw in the brain. And then, and Lisa T, with her lovely hair metaphors,
I love the hair.
she has a character named Willow, and every single description of her, the entire thing was a metaphor. It was all plant things. So she had like rows of something, a diagram of a plant, and seedlings. Her hair was like seedlings. So it was all the way through.
Yeah. And again, that gives you some of the like the sort of language or mindset of the point of view character.
Yeah.
You know, what metaphors are they going to pick? What matters to them? How do they see the world? Yeah.
And Lisa Meltzer Penn, okay, had a constant contrast between the expectations of people due to birth order and what they actually were capable of doing. And so there was a constant conflict between appearance versus reality. And it got, she used several, well, you also used hair references, weird hair extensions, wet dog shower, a wet dog stepping out of a shower. And then it ended with a reference to fake peace. I am the peacemaker, and this is fake peace.
Ooh,
and
yeah.
it was just consistent. It was really good. Worked.
We had a lot of fun in our room.
We did.
And that gap between sort of expectation and reality is always, I mean, that's just always, what is the character expecting? What are, you know, what is the conflict between the expectations and then between what the expectations and what actually happens? Yeah, very rich. Good. Let's go on. I don't think I can have more than 3 rules, but Felicia made a very good observation last night, which was when we read, which is just relevant for later after we write, but you don't really need to set up, right? You notice that like you just read the piece and there's so much in it and so much to learn from it and so much to think about. And that's sort of the level at which we're grappling right now, is like the level of the sentence and the paragraphs and the image and the action. So I thought that was a great point, and I'm only bringing it up now because I'm afraid I won't remember it at the appropriate time. So thank you, Felicia. And let's go to number 2. So this is from Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. Has anyone read it? It got a lot of buzz. And yeah, did you like it?
I thought it was like a nice distracting light read.
Yeah, it was kind of surprised me because it kind of had a lot of places it could go, and I'm not sure it ever quite did, but although it had some moments that really hit me. And I think that what I've read about him is that he and his wife are both writers. I mentioned this last night or the other night, I guess Tuesday. You weren't here. You all weren't here. He and his wife, they're both writers and they have young kids. And so they'll go off for like 4 to 6 weeks or something like that. Like one of them will just go off and write a whole manuscript. And that's what he did. So anyway, it was interesting. But this is a great description, I think, of a character. So Timothy is a kid, and the narrator is a late 20s woman. And she says, and she's gone, after I give my wonderful talk about not setting up, I just want to tell you this. What I think is interesting to know about how class plays into this is that, so she's kind of working to poverty class, and her best friend from this semester at boarding school, when she was a scholarship student at boarding school in high school, has like invited her to come be an employee and look after these kids. And Timothy is that best friend's kid. So they're incredibly wealthy. And I think and he's this little kid, but I think it's kind of relevant in the metaphors that she uses. Timothy was already there, his hands clasped together on the table, like he was ready to pray, or like he was your boss and was really sorry, but he was going to have to fire you. The more I saw of Timothy, his formality and robotic qualities, the more I liked him. So I love that, because that is so unexpected to me, right? That the words robotic and formality, those are not necessarily instantly sort of they aren't warm words, they're not fuzzy words, right? And so the fact that these are the qualities that make her like him more, tells me so much about her and her kind of quirkiness as well as his quirkiness. So I really love that. So playing as we did with for those who, and I think all of you actually experienced this with the last lesson on change of the last quarter, when we talked about change, and I had the Ta-Nehisi Coates one where he talks about the transformation of the city from lovely to, or from chaotic to symphony-like. So, and then the words like hovel and bartering and or haggling and low things and whatever, he spins as now as positive, sort of as part of the cacophony of the symphony. So here too, I feel like it's not just, all the words being warm and fuzzy, and then that means positive, or it's like letting us, like, all our human nuance kind of get in there and really get, like, what is it that a character likes? And it might not be just the sort of generic hallmark things that we expect a character to like or have a positive reaction to. Again, metaphor here, right? So his hands clasped together, and then by giving us both, like, sort of prayer image and then the boss image, one, we're sort of bringing in these tones of like religion and work hierarchy, right? So again, we're kind of bringing up all the hierarchy stuff at play here. Plus it's a child, so it's an unexpected juxtaposition. And so it's just this very vivid kind of way to play out that image. And then again, so his formality and robotic qualities, right? The more I saw him, the more I liked him. I just love that. So so lots of fun stuff to play with. So give us your point of view character, seeing a character, maybe seeing a gesture, maybe play with what would happen if you did a couple of metaphors that kind of play with and against each other, that kind of, we suddenly have this sort of symphony of possibility, but it's not random. It's not like the author couldn't think or couldn't decide which one to use or couldn't think of something better, right? It's like they kind of give us two different glosses on this gesture, but they also kind of remind us that in prayer and in work, there's like a hierarchy, and there's a possibility, there's entreaty and failure and all of that, right? So I think it's, again, just, in the way that it triggers our brain, not that we're sitting there doing an English paper analysis of it, but just fun things to kind of light your reader up with. And then again, that unexpected language. What is your character going to notice and like that maybe a different character wouldn't notice or wouldn't like? What is particular to your point of view character, and what is particular to the character they're observing? Yeah, so fun. Go to the page, draw a character with words, and see what happens.
How long?
Let's do 10 minutes. Couple more minutes. Okay, let's hear some of these. Who is ready to find out what you wrote? All right, Diana. Will you unmute, please? Thank you.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay. This is quite short, but that's not an apology. I'm just saying that.
Statement of fact.
Okay. Right. Okay. Maggie Dunn walked toward her, holding a clipboard to her chest. Her slow pace and beige cardigan spelled government worker. Kathy immediately disliked her. She was, after all, a risk manager at an important hospital with important medical teams who rushed down shiny hallways. No one carried a clipboard to meetings.
Oh, I love it. I love the slow pace and beige sweater, right? Makes her a government worker, right? Like this equation. It's so great. And then the comparison, the kind of rushing down the shiny hallways, right? So this is this wonderful use of these opposites to kind of pull in different directions and to set up this, I love an immediate dislike. I mean, you can sort of see the energy of, for example, romantic comedy in that, you know, when a character has an immediate dislike, we kind of hope for an arc. It doesn't mean it's always going to happen. Some characters are going to seem unlikable and going to be unlikable. But again, we're always looking for the ways that our characters' assumptions and expectations are going to be challenged. And that's a pleasurable thing, right? So here's, you know, these two very different kinds of people with different paces and different colors. You know, it's a great setup. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Who's next? All right, Shannon, and then Catherine. Great.
Afterward, her hair slightly damp, she wanders their apartment, touching things that belong to her as lightly as she would the possessions of a stranger. Ready, Jonathan asks, emerging from the bedroom, having changed from shorts into jeans. Uh-huh, she says, smiling at him in a way she hopes seems suggestive. Standing on tiptoe to kiss him, her hands busy liberating his shirt from the top of his jeans. We'll miss our reservation, he says, trapping both of her hands in one of his and retucking his shirt with the other, as though she's a child who's touched something forbidden and won't be chided, but merely redirected.
Great. You know, just from the sort of intimacy of the damp hair to the touching her own things as lightly as she would those of a stranger, which ends up, you know, now that we've heard the whole of this moment, seeming so, you know, even more poignant. I mean, it's a wonderful line, but then just to see kind of her displacement somehow in this interaction, and you know, and the way she sees him and the details she notices about him and the hope that her look is suggestive and her action, and then his trapping her hands, right? It's just such a strong verb and so different from what she's hoping for here. And and I love this, that she's not even, whatever, how you said it, but going to be reprimanded, she's going to be redirected, right? And there's something sort of almost condescending in that sort of theoretically gentler approach. Yeah, fabulous. A lot going on there. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine, if you will unmute you, please, and then think if you are next after Catherine. Yes, you.
Okay. Thank you for reminding me. I did not know. Okay. Marilyn.
Wait, Catherine, before you read, can you tilt your computer a little bit so we can see your whole face? Yay, beautiful.
Okay, I'm actually in another document, so I can't see myself.
Ah, yes.
How am I doing?
That's much better. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Lovely.
Marilyn stood just over 5 feet with shoulder-length hair that she tried to keep in a slapdash ponytail. She needn't have tried because the demands of daycare had her reaching, lifting, chasing, and grabbing just to keep kids from killing themselves or each other, and made it fall in dull and tired strands around her face. No one really looked at her anyway. The moms rushed in smelling of Kate Spade and hairspray and treated her with the preoccupied determination that comes from being well paid. They said goodbye to their kids and swiveled on those politically correct Rothies and left her with one more crying kid, but not a word of acknowledgement. This disregard really stung at the end of the day when they were late for pickup. They'd apologize, but their tone belied the truth that even Marilyn accepted. They had real jobs.
Nice. I love the list of verbs, like all the things she's doing and the way you sort of pile on the list, and it just feels like it replicates the job itself, right? The actions, and then the description of these women, and that it starts with kind of what they rush in smelling of this, and like just this kind of, we get their smell first and their self-importance, and then they come in again later, and and just, I think the gap between them and her, and then the sort of that even she had to acknowledge, or like just this sort of negotiation that's happening under the verbal level, under the apology. Yeah, nice. And then we see them really vividly, right? Like getting those details in this and through many senses, I think is really wonderful for us as readers to kind of be brought into the world.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, who's next? Carolyn, and then Leela. All right. Oops. You have to unmute you. It's just not letting me do anything.
I think I'm unmuted.
Yes.
I think I can put it into this. Okay, it's in the.
Oh, good idea, because you are cutting out quite a bit. So Carolyn is putting in the chat as well as reading it, and that's a great thing if you are not handwriting and can do that. That's great.
Oh, shoot. It just
very short.
That's weird. Wait a minute. I'm sorry.
Wait, no worries.
I didn't copy it all.
It doesn't always work, Zoom.
I know.
Copy paste.
Okay, this should work though. Ta-da. There we go. Okay.
Yay.
Julia looked at me the first time she met me like she thought I might be an exotic zoo animal that she had never known about. Peering through her dark lashes, under her chin-length dark hair, out of her enormous eyes, she asked me if it was distracting to be writing a dissertation in a warm green California winter instead of the cold snow where the only thing to do was work. She didn't take her eyes off me as she waited for me to speak, as if she had all the time in the world to hear my answer, and was simply curious about whether I was going to bite her head off or come to her purring. It made me want to purr.
Oh, fantastic. I love too how it starts with the exotic zoo animal, and then it comes back to that just through the metaphoric language, and that her simple curiosity draws out one of these two kind of radically different possibilities, right? I love that. And she's so vivid, the description of her, and then the question about whether it's distracting, and the descriptions of the warm green California winter and the cold buried in snow Madison winter also set up a great kind of tension and feel in some way connected to maybe their differences, or I don't know, there's something just intriguing in any kind of opposition like that. Yeah, great. And Leela. And again, unmute, please.
Okay. Hugs and kisses are not considered appropriate in Bali, something the Italian and me couldn't ever remember or accept. Made, that's someone we use sometimes to drive us places. Made never touches us and we never touch him. I've been trained not to touch people, not even on the shoulder as a public school teacher, but the private school teacher in me, and again, the Italian, usually can't resist a light tap on the shoulder. You can do this, it says. I'm here, I'm on your side. Made has spent countless hours sitting in traffic, waiting in parking garages or on the side of the road, swerving to avoid piles of dirt and stray pregnant dogs, adjusting the air conditioning and volume of music to accommodate our increasingly tween-like children. To never thank him with anything but money and a smile is beyond me. No hugs, no pat on the back, no handshake even. When we returned in January from 3 weeks away, Made was clearly happy to see us. The Chinese tourists had stopped coming to Bali because of coronavirus, and his work must have slowed considerably. He clasped my hand between his two hands, smiling, and it was like he had dipped me and kissed me like a sailor returning from war. I'm happy to see you too, Made, I said, stepping into his van.
Oh, I love that, you know, it was like he had dipped me and kissed me. And you set it up so well that I feel like we're right there with you at that radical change. And of course, there's so much going on there too, right? As we, you know, in terms of the politics of the world and all of that. And then I think it's so interesting that there's kind of the role of the public school teacher, the role of the private school teacher, and then the social expectations of Bali, and how all of these kind of put a different gloss on certain kinds of touch, right? And what they mean. So it's really fascinating and kind of hints at a lot of different things. And then I love where it pays off with the clasping. Yeah, fabulous. One more. Let's hear one more. All right, Lisa MP, can you unmute, please?
Okay. I will only do the second half because it's long.
Thank you.
She just wants the sympathy, I said when Debbie was out of the hospital room. You know, because it's all about her. I like the sympathy, Debbie said when she came back in just then. It makes me feel better. She unplugged my phone to plug hers back in. Debbie had a remarkable ability to focus in on the parts she liked, the parts that might have doubled for sympathy. Who are you on the phone with anyway, I asked. Aren't you here to be with Mom? She looked up, eyes bright. It's been hard, she said. She twirled one of her hair extensions. She had told Dana they looked alike now. Dana had straight hair. They were 15 years apart. No one would think they were the same age. I see a lot of doctors. They don't know what's wrong. She picked up her plastic water bottle from the shelf and took a drink. The air is so dry in here. I think my organs are shutting down. I exchanged looks with Dana. Our mother was lying in the bed unconscious. We were basically waiting for her organs to shut down for real. Was the air too dry for her? Maybe not. She lasted days and days in that state. Debbie tugged her hair one more time. And my hair is so dry. I canceled my appointment so I could be here. Maybe I should have kept it.
Wonderful. I mean, so we've got like the sort of, again, the point of view character observing this character who is clearly, you know, annoying, not to say rubbing her the wrong way, right? And sort of like the comment of saying, you know, my organs are shutting down in a hospital room with somebody who is essentially dying. You know, the idea that she can sort of focus in on the parts she liked, I think is an interesting observation about one of the characters. And again, first of all, it reminds me that characters were observing each other physically, of course, but also observing strategies, observing techniques and characteristics and personalities and all of that. but then being in the room and seeing the drinking the water from the plastic water bottle and the hair, pulling in the hair extensions and all of those things that kind of, so that they ground us, so that we kind of buy into the more abstract ways of describing the character. We're kind of on board with the point of view character watching these interactions. Yeah, great. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, last one for today is from Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. And I should say this won the Man Booker Prize alongside of Margaret Atwood's, the follow-up to Handmaid's Tale. So they share the prize. And this is written in verse. Not rhyming verse, and I haven't set it up right because, honestly, because I read it electronically, so I highlighted this and it didn't preserve the line breaks, but you can sort of see them. It's not punctuated traditionally, and instead has line breaks, which unfortunately aren't in here, as I said, but you'll hear them. So that's just kind of fun. And this is this kind of opens out what we've been doing today. So we've been looking at kind of the dynamics of the observing character and the observed character and how much description reveals both of them. Well, here we've got a character who's walking into a group setting. And we're also, what I think is great about this one is it also really looks at the desires of the other characters. What do the characters want when they're observing this character? What do they want from her? What kind of reaction do they want? What are they hoping for? And the ways that changes, the ways that what they're hoping for and desiring from the character changes. So,
you mean people in the group? Or do you mean what do the people in the group want from this character?
Yeah, let me read it and then I'll say that again because you'll have the context. Nzinga. So Nzinga is Dominique is part of the group, but Alma's best friend, and Nzinga is her new love interest, and the women all live in Britain, and Nzinga's from America. Nzinga really did look spectacular when she walked in the door of Alma's room in Fredomia. She was at least 6 foot tall, with ornamented dreadlocks, large wooden Akuaba fertility doll earrings, red trousers, a cream embroidered kaftan, and strappy Roman sandals. She was somewhat older than them, yet somehow appeared ageless. Alma noted how the force of her presence had the effect of diminishing everyone else's. Before she arrived, her guests wanted to like Nzinga because they liked Dominique. Now she was here, they wanted to impress her. Alma wanted Nzinga to prove herself worthy of Dominique's love. So all of those dynamics, right? So first of all, we see her, she really did look spectacular. So they've been hearing about her and now she walks in, she really did look spectacular. And then we get this spectacular description of her, right? All the vivid details, we see her. We get that she was somewhat older than them, yet somehow appeared ageless, right? So these kind of interesting contradictions. And then I think this is really interesting. Before she arrived, her guests wanted to like Nzinga because they liked Dominique. So that's what their sort of expectation or desire coming in. Now that she was here, they wanted to impress her. So she's different, a little different from what they expected, and maybe herself a little more impressive, and they want to impress her. And then Alma, who is Dominique's best friend, Alma wanted Nzinga to prove herself worthy of Dominique's love, right? So all of the nuances there, but because we've watched this woman walk into the room and we get all this great description, I think we're really like on board for that shift of desire, and then to zero in on Alma's hope here. So playing around with description and with desire and with the ways that changes too, right? But when you haven't met somebody, you think, I hope this or I hope that, and then how does their actual presence shift that and change that desire? So fun things to play with. Let's do 12 minutes. couple more minutes. Okay, let's hear from everybody else. And well, here's the order I wrote it down. So Cindy.
Which one?
Sima Ivy.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, I'm gonna find the spot in the middle so I'm not reading too far.
I'll go next.
There's a. She's just gotten off the train, so this is where we are. Finally, she sees her sister. Finally, after so many weeks, a familiar face. Maria, this is the sister, was walking toward her, accompanied by two men. Melia tried to walk in their direction, but seemed to be frozen where she stood. She awkwardly grasped her satchel and put it down again, the lightly packed luggage somehow having acquired the weight of the world. The taller man in front, more than a head taller than Maria, and his stride considerably longer, moved forward faster than the others. He had such broad shoulders it seemed as if the seams of his jacket might split, and a face and hands clearly weathered and roughened by the sun and soil. When he stood finally in front of her, Melia felt the appraisal of his ice blue eyes like a shock, saw the square set of his jaw, so much more angular than the image in the photograph. Mario, who had been in the trio of mere boys who set out over the mountains, now become a burly man. He held out his hand in the American manner, said something in dialect. As he did so, he was transformed into a dark shadow by afternoon sun behind him. The sky too suddenly darkened to indigo, and Melia was back on the hill of the chestnut trees, the crisp late winter air blowing about her face. When she came to, she first heard Maria's voice and felt her hand caressing her face. She's had a very long journey, poor thing.
Wonderful. The shock made her faint.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the description of him, you know, and it's interesting because as I heard each detail, I was sort of trying to analyze whether it was positive or negative. You know, it was sort of kind of in a nice seesaw around what's going on, so that when her shock came, I was sort of like interested in like, what is her reaction to this man? Yeah. Wonderful. Great. All right. And the other Cindy said she wants to go next. So there you go.
Okay.
You're unmuted, yeah.
Professor Fox strode into the classroom like he was walking on stage to give a TED Talk. He wore jeans and a black turtleneck, and Catherine wanted to raise her hand and remind him that this was a graduate seminar on Mayan archaeology, not a business school class on product design. She guessed him to be 6'3", maybe 6'4". He wore tortoiseshell glasses that looked much too expensive for a humanities professor. And yet she found that her attention was completely focused on him as he shuffled his papers and prepared to speak. He quickly pushed his glasses up to the brink of his large aquiline nose, and as he cleared his throat, Catherine was suddenly seized by the urge to yell, "Hail Caesar!" which would have been grossly inappropriate, but there it was. He rolled his shoulders under his turtleneck. Catherine had to remind herself to breathe. She steadied herself by drawing a three-dimensional box at the top of her notepad.
What a wonderful gesture for by a gesture of containment. Yeah, and again, there's sort of the wonderful and very specific kind of and humorous, like, Mayan archaeology versus, business product development, his tortoiseshell glasses. And again, this sort of description of him that is, where we can feel her slightly off kilter response to him in the details chosen. And at the same time, we get to see him vividly. So, description is doing multiple things. And I think we really can see that here. And I love the specificity of her urge, which is hilarious, but also, very, very particular, right? So it gives us kind of both characters, right? Yeah, wonderful.
That was fun.
All right, who's next? All right, Lisa T and then Felicia. Perfect. Go, Lisa, if you can unmute.
I'm doing the earlier exercise.
Okay.
Letty drove with unusual aggressiveness, accelerating at any gaps in traffic, switching lanes suddenly, glaring at two slow drivers as she passed. Despite the herky-jerky of the car, Helen sat in the passenger seat motionless, head down. Her hips were less than half the width of the seat, a third maybe, so the oily splotches of the car seat were exposed, unlike when Willow sat there and took up all the space. Helen's head was bowed, chin tucked, like she was afraid to look at the vehicles they were hurtling past, or like she was a puppy who had peed on the kitchen floor and knew she had disappointed her owner.
Fabulous. Great metaphors, right? And again, that thing with the two metaphors is like the point of view character trying to kind of figure this other character out, right? And trying to kind of pin something down about her. And I love the driving and all the accelerating and the glaring and the phrase what is it? Herky jerky. What did you say?
The herky-jerky of the car.
It's just a really great, very particular phrase that again gives us character as well as setting. And then the oily splotches of the seat, and then the comparison to Willow, who would have covered them. And so there's this kind of exposing of her car, because of this person's narrowness, and which I think again, it's like it all sort of resonates with the larger discomfort of figuring out, somebody, and then is she afraid? What is going on with this girl? So yeah, wonderful. Again, like all the work that description does in a scene to get us to engage with the story. Yeah, fabulous. And Felicia.
All right. Reba palmed an avocado and squeezed. Ooh, Jess moaned. You'll hurt it. Reba narrowed her eyes, remembering just why she loathed Jess. Her head was shaped like an avocado. No, the alien in Closer Encounters. No, that painting, the scream. Reba set the avocado back on the heap of mishandled vegetable fruit. A sharp pain, and she massaged her temples. The avocado rolled onto the floor. Reba couldn't tie her shoes, let alone retrieve it. Jess leapt to her service. What a show-off. Reba held the small of her back and grimaced as if that was the reason she hadn't reached down, not her girth. Jess looked at the avocado sympathetically. There should be a garbage can nearby to discard these, she said. Looks like someone else got to it before you did, Reba. Looks like someone got to all of them, she said, while squeezing another one. They're beyond hope, Reba said. It was good to run into you, Jess. I better get going. Reba tried to set her shopping cart in motion, but of course God wasn't going to grant her a graceful exit. She shouldn't have been lazy. She should have searched the parking lot for an abandoned shopping cart and switched the one she'd settled for with one that didn't have that crazy wheel that took her in the opposite direction. Jess caught her arms, eyes warm with compassion. She She gave Jess the same look the hospital chaplain gives after you learn your breast cancer is terminal. Let me get you a working shopping cart, Jess said softly. That wobbly wheel will drive you crazy. Wait here. Watch my cart for me, okay? Jess sprinted out the sliding doors. A man and a woman entering turned to look at the beauty exiting as they entered the store. There was no way to guess Jess's age, that naive pixie cut, the yoga pants with the wide band showing off hips that had borne no children. Was she married now, woman or man? The doors which closed behind her, and there Reba stood waiting for a woman she'd hoped never to see again, Jess, with her kiss of a name, a woman who'd suffered all manner of abuse as a child and from the looks of it recovered. No dark circles around her eyes, no bitterness at the corners of her smile. Jess, the woman she befriended when neither one of them could imagine how they'd move from having crushes to kissing a woman's mouth, much less anything more. Jess, the hurler of teacups, the woman who put the fear of God in her, that level of anger. Jess, the kind of person who she predicted would never know peace, was as she'd ever been, not unlike the avocados one squeezed in hopes of divining their ripeness.
That's amazing. Wow. Yeah, I love that, and the way that actually the whole build of the avocados, I have to say, so, and the way that they're beyond hope, right? Like, so in the middle of it, we get the kind of declaration, they're beyond hope. And it's so clearly, the subtext is, we are, you are, I, like, right. It's about the relationship but it's perfect. I mean, that's exactly how close to the surface subtext should be. And if it's layered over by something that is literal and true, it works so well. And then that builds to the more sort of overt comparison to the avocados when we've kind of opened into like this whole sort of rich backstory and the kiss of a name and all this amazing history that and her sort of apparent recovery, and then just early on too the kind of indecisiveness of how to describe her, and then also fruit, vegetable, fruit. Like there's a lot of that kind of figuring out, which I think, again, it's just very human. It's what we're doing when we're encountering people, and the descriptions and the whole thing with the shopping cart is also great. Again, it's like completely this specific actual situation with the cart, but it just means so much more. The stakes are so high in that escape, right? So yeah, fabulous. Great.
Thank you.
All right, let's go Debbie and Pat. Debbie, unmute. Pat's next.
Okay, here we go. You look at the red ticker at the bottom of the screen, an explosion. The announcer repeating what the police said at first. Perhaps strong February rains and lightning caused a reaction at the Trade Center. You stay still, unable to look away, unable to understand the moving pictures repeating every few minutes. You see Crash's face in your mind. You hear his voice tell you that he was going to the Trade Center to drop off his photographs. You look at the clock on your in-laws' nightstand. It is early afternoon. You rise with unexpected energy and your legs propel you out the bedroom door and down the hall quickly. You throw on your boots and your black coat and run out, keys in hand. You run 6 blocks and turn left and run another 6 blocks. The keys jangle in time to your frantic beat. Your hands stiff and curl when pain. Your breath uneven. The doorman is not at his post and Crash doesn't reply, first to the buzzer and then to your frantic knocks. You run even faster back to the apartment.
And then what? Right? Like, no. Although perfect place to end a chapter, right? I mean, it could be 1 a.m. and we'd have to turn the page. Yeah, fantastic. I love one, just the uncertainty of what's gone on and the kind of the speculation that is totally off, which is, really accurate, right? To that kind of moment. And the way the story fills in and triggers the action and and then the language is very rich and we're right in it and just right away, like so worried about and I think the specificity of like the photographs, even though like right now, I don't know exactly what he was, but it's like, he's told her this thing and is he there and happen and right. So lots of great kind of reader questions and concern in the middle of a very vivid scene. Good.
Thank you.
Pat.
Okie doke. I will go to the piece, and this is part of my memoir when, well, you'll see. We are 21 years old, fairly recently married. I could hear Leon's steps on the last flight to our 4th floor apartment. Then he flew in the door, clearly ebullient. I blinked. What's up? I said. I got it. I got the job at Control Data, and the money is great. His big brown eyes gleamed, only outdone by his big smile. Wonderful, I said, pleased for him, but already uneasy. Where is Control Data? Massachusetts, on Route 128, just north of Boston. Oh, I said, alarm in my voice. What's the matter? This is great news. Inside, I fought the battle between supporting his achievement, his excitement, and my alarm at all the implications of what he was telling me. Leave New York, our friends, my job at the Institute for International Education, our cute apartment, the familiarity of everything. I took a deep breath. He said, I thought you said New York was overwhelming, the constant need to choose with too many options. Yes, I said, so many stores, so many movies playing at once, so many people everywhere, but still, it's like moving to Mars. He was now more subdued. I felt bad to have brought him down. It is great, I said, just a big change. Yes, he said. He gave me a quick hug and went to pour himself some coffee.
Good. I love the energy of his footsteps coming up and his flying into the room and the reaction of being pleased and uneasy, right? So right away there's that push pull and then and I love the you said New York was overwhelming and that she just says yes, right? Like yes, and we just see all of a sudden like, well, yes, I complain about it because it's home, right? It's family. It's like, just because you said is overwhelming doesn't mean I don't want to like be there. So I love kind of the human dynamic of that and just the yes that holds so much. And the one thing I would say is just keep layering in that, the seeing him come in the room is really wonderful. And especially you get a real like energy of his movement and just keep letting her assess his face, his gestures, and also the backdrop of that apartment, which is going to come up as that familiar place, right? That the thing that she's leaving. So just keep putting in more of that into the scene, which already has all the tensions, and those details will just keep kind of adding themselves to the wonderful tensions at play there. Yeah. Fabulous.
Okay, I will.
Great work, everybody. Remember, our goals are gentle and they're supportive. Our goals are not driving us on. They are, they're helping us. They're reminding us to check in with our writer self. Hey, what's going on?
Hold on.
Apartment. I mean, like.
Holes again.
I also reminder that I'm always taking topics. We're at the beginning of the quarter. So if there are things you're grappling with, struggling with, curious about, things you love that you want to do, let me know. Also, like Bree wrote us an email. She wanted to do passion, so, like getting back into the passion part of writing. Of course, she's really such a wonderful, passionate writer, but anyway, we did a podcast about it. So that's also, if you have any questions you want Angie and I to prattle on about, that's another option. Storymaker show. Okay, Debbie's gonna keep pulling those Bookaneer pieces and write, and Diana's gonna submit her low point for Book in a Year, and Lisa is doing morning pages and just some writing every day. Yeah. Other Lisa is going to keep writing and figuring out the form of her memoir, leaning towards braided over framed. It helps me reflect on the childhood parts when I'm positioned in the adult parts for bits between, as long as it's not forced, but it seems to be coming naturally. Great. Felicia, goals, not to disappoint myself setting goals I don't keep. That's such a good goal. And Cindy, CI, continue working on short essay and getting the Malia story organized, interspersed with mask making. The story interspersed, or are you mask making? Oh, wait, don't forget you're muted.
I just, the toggling between writing and doing something where I feel like I'm making some sort of contribution.
Oh, no, that could
Have my dish towels and my.
Yes, I don't know why, but I mean, like we're actually like Angie brought home a 3D printer from the school to like print stuff. So I totally am like, but for whatever reason, because we're in creative writing mode, I was just like,
I know, but that's the trouble. My mind does not stay in one place. So
I was thinking
have
of making
two
like
different places for it to go instead of just everywhere.
Fabulous. I think this is all important, very important. All right. Carolyn, keeping kind to myself and enjoy the writing with the support of my Buccaneers Zoom group. Great. Catherine, keep revising, starting at where I left off, 4 days a week, 2 hours a day, remembering that when I write, I'm more peaceful. I skipped Cindy B. No, did I? What happened? I thought you were going to go, you went last time. Oh my God, did you not?
You skipped my goal. You skipped.
Oh, I skipped. I was like, you read. I remember. To play with the characters I wrote about today to see if there's something there. Ooh, good.
We're kind of from a novel that I worked on. Like, I mean, it's been like probably 10, 15 years, and it was from a novel I wrote in the first person, but I want to try third person and see what happens.
Fun, good. I love it. Great plan to keep moving forward. Shannon, get up more often and play with the dog on my writing days. Yes, the dog. That dog says yes. Lisa T, I'm interested in examining using humor / drama together. I just read Penelope Fitzgerald Offshore and was amazed how she manages to tackle serious issues and still stay funny. Yeah, nice. Great work, everybody. We are having alternate week next week with Felicia, and where are we? It's Thursday. So the alternate week exercises are in the back, and I created a separate handout that just has them. So I'll get that all organized, but that's there. So yeah, great work. Stay safe. Think helpful thoughts in amidst the rest of the thoughts, and I'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care.
Take care.